Hi, fans of high quality entertainment. I am with Alex from Beer and Vinyl, and we're going to go through the discography of Kenny Rogers. No, we're going through the discography of a band that I've just started to appreciate in the past few months. Dream Theater. This is their latest album. It's called Persomnia. There it is there. Really good album. And then I guess this is kind of their most popular with the fans, Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory, which is awesome. Yeah. So Alex is going to do most of the talking here. I'm just going to sit back and drink my green tea.
Oh, you didn't have wine today?
No wine yet, no. So yeah, you're going to go through their discography from the very beginning.
Yep.
And maybe you could just so we know what you feel about. I know you don't like rating albums, but
yeah,
whatever you want to do. Okay. So go ahead, Alex, and tell me first how you first heard of Dream Theater.
For sure. Yeah. And I apologize up front if I'm a little bit long-winded. This is my favorite band of all time. Yeah. So it's just one, it's like asking you about the Beatles. It's hard not to just, go on and on. So I first heard them back in 2006 or so. I was in high school, and a buddy of mine was into them. He and I started a band together with a couple other of our friends. And most of our other friends were coming from like just a, classic rock sort of love, right? Like we loved all that kind of just Led Zeppelin and, Jimi Hendrix, that kind of stuff. But this other guy named Kevin, he was like the guitar, like virtuoso guy. Like he was really good. And so he was always talking about this band Dream Theater and, on and on. And so he had played one of their CDs in his car. And I was like, okay, like I could see myself getting into this. And so then I went to is either
sorry, were you a fan of Yes or Prog at the time, or
it's funny, I'd never called it that. It was this. I loved Rush, which will come up. I loved Jethro Tull, if you call them Prog. But yeah, I was not really as big into Yes or Gentle Giant or King Crimson, like all those bands. I mean, I was like 15 or so back in the early 2000s. So yeah, like the whole Prog thing. It's like I had Rush 2112. That was one of the first CDs I ever bought. And I was like, what is this? And so then I went to one of the stores and bought one of their CDs. I asked my buddy Kevin, I said, which one do you think I should buy? And he gave me a couple. And I think the very first one was the one that you held up, the Metropolis Part 2. And I listened to that and I said, I've never heard anything like this. And it kind of mixed all my favorite things together. So
you liked it right away? Like
I liked it right away. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Woo. And again, for me, and I'll kind of go through obviously the albums. It was, it was the mix of all the things I really liked. It had the heaviness of like a Metallica, but it had the sort of, big composition and epic and cinematicness of Rush. And so it just mixed with everything I wanted. So, hey there. Hey. So yeah, I'm more than happy to jump in at least, and we'll briskly go through these and share thoughts and, places. I'm sure there's people watching that are huge fans, and maybe some people are watching that are just huge fans of you and, or just, maybe looking for a place to start or something like that. So, it is 16 studio albums. So
16 albums. We're going to be here for 16 hours.
We'll go through.
I want you to just talk about each album for 2 minutes.
I could do that. I could
just joke.
It's still a 32-minute, long. But the first thing I'll show, because technically this is not one of the studio albums, but it is important just for the history. Dream Theater was founded by Mike Portnoy, John Myung, and John Petrucci at Berklee College of Music in Boston in 1985. And so this is one of their sort of official bootlegs, they'll call it essentially, of the demos from 1985 to 1986. So these are songs that they wrote and recorded back at Berklee College of Music back in 1985, 1986, when they were called Majesty. So
How's the sound quality on that?
Oh, these are like I'm pretty good. I mean, they are demo quality, but they're not bootleg quality.
Yeah,
I'll put it that way. So yeah. And so the very, very first studio record that they released actually was 1989, and that is When Dream and Day Unite. So this is kind of a little bit of the black sheep of the catalog. It is their first official record. It's the only record that doesn't feature James LaBrie on vocals. It has Charlie Dominici on vocals, who didn't really fit the band. So the comparison that was given, I think Mike Portnoy actually gave an interview, and he said, Charlie's a great singer. He's an amazing friend, great guy. They would do all these different things. But it was, I think he used the phrase, it would be like Steve Walsh from Kansas singing for Iron Maiden. It just didn't work. Great voice, but it didn't work. What is important about this record, again, it's their first official LP. But you felt the compositions were coming together. The music is there. Production quality's not there, but the music is there. It's just that the voice didn't really, fit the music essentially. But there are still some really great songs on here that sometimes still make the set list today. So yeah, that is When Dreaming Day Unite. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to comment on this. I've heard Zach Stark, he got fired from The Who. Yeah, I just did a reaction video on my other YouTube channel today, and there's some footage. It's kind of sad, but whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know who this is? Charlie?
Yep, he was the first singer on that record.
Okay. Oh,
yep.
Wow.
Yeah, so he passed away, I think, in 2023. So now I would tell you the vast majority, I think, of Dream Theater fans put that record at the bottom.
So what's the year of that album?
1989.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep. So, they were a band writing, recording, doing all these different things for 4 years before their first record came out. So here comes the big one. This is, without a doubt, I'd say, what most people say, the most important record in their catalog, where a lot of people will say to start, and just a staple of the progressive metal genre. 1992's Images and Words.
Yeah.
I mean, this was kind of a make or break record for them. They had been a band now for 6-7 years, weren't going anywhere. Not only was this so important and really the foundation for what is now known as progressive metal. Now there's a billion bands that are doing the prog metal thing.
Yeah.
In the early 90s, that was not a thing.
That album cover actually reminds me of like a Marillion album cover.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Now, the big important thing with this was that it had their only actual hit called Pull Me Under. Pull Me Under blew up. It was huge on MTV. It was all over the radio. And again, just, put them in a space where it was like, they started the tour in a van and they ended the tour in a tour bus. Like, it just kind of blew them up overnight. This is still by far their highest selling record of all time. Pull Me Under was huge. In the mid 2000s, they released a compilation called Greatest Hit and 25 other pretty cool songs, because it was their only hit song ever.
Yeah.
The only song that really got any radio play. So just a hugely important career-saving, career-starting, all that type of stuff record. Pull Me Under is the huge hit, which obviously just connected them with so many people, but it also had some of their greatest sort of compositions that would become staples from here on out. You showed Metropolis Part 2. The start of that technically was that the song Metropolis Part 1 is on this record.
Yeah.
Learning to Live is just amazing. Another Day, big ballad stuff. So, I mean, just so important. A great record in so many ways. A lot of Dream Theater fans still put this at number 1. That's right. Yeah. So Learning to Live, it is the famous James LaBrie F sharp, as they will call it.
Yeah.
Toronto's own James LaBrie, by the way.
Oh, really? He's from Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And you just recently saw them?
I did. Yeah. I saw them about 3 weeks ago at this point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
So those first two albums, what would you rate them out of 10?
That's a great question. I love it. Dream and Day Unite, the first one, I still really enjoy it. Obviously, it's just not one you go back to very much, but it's great to hear the songs. I'd give this, I'd go like a 7. But again, I love this band, and I love everything they've ever done. Even their stuff that everybody hates, I still love. This is what people call a perfect 10 out of 10 record.
Yeah.
So, just hugely important to all of that. So that was 1992. 1994 rolls around, and we get their third record called Awake. Very cool album cover here.
And it was such a disappointing follow-up.
It's so funny. At the time, absolutely it was.
Yeah.
The label was looking for the mega radio sort of big follow-up to pull me under in images and words. This sold a lot less. And so at the time, a lot of people were going, are they a one and done band? Have they lost the momentum? Over time, Dream Theater fans have gone back to absolutely adore this album. I think just song-wise, everything about it. It's a little bit darker. It's a little bit more, I don't want to say more serious, but at least the topics that are being talked about are a lot more serious. It is darker. It just has a different sound to it. I love this album. There are some days that this is like a top 5 record for me. So rating wise, I'm putting this at a 9 or a 10.
So when you first heard it though, was it like disappointing to you or?
So it wasn't to me because I wasn't a fan during the time.
Yeah.
For me, it was just another one of their records that I loved. What I think is really important about this from the overall sound of the band, though, is that now they're getting into the more conceptual, long, sort of, sweet style type of writing. There are so many different, this is where we see what is it here? It's called A Mind Beside Itself suite, which is sort of a connection of 3 different songs that all sort of blend together. Again, they're moving into that more conceptual stage here. So this is Awake. I love Awake. It's darker, it's heavier, but the songs are just fantastic. So, yeah.
The last song, Space Dive Vest, never fails to send shivers down my spine.
Space Dive Vest, so great. And there's nothing else that sounds like Space Dive Vest in their whole catalog.
So far, I've only got these 2 albums, right?
Yep.
Which one do you think I should get next?
Well, we'll keep going.
Okay.
Because
you'll let me know.
I'll let you know.
Okay.
I think either of the previous 2 would be good places too.
Yeah.
We'll jump up, technically not a studio LP, but it is an EP, and it's a fan favorite among Dream Theater fans, and that is A Change of Seasons. Point of importance, I guess, during the kind of mastering, mixing of Awake, Kevin Moore, who was their keyboard player, had left the band, had sort of left the music world, got away from all that type of stuff. And so at this point now, this is 1995. We have a new member, Derek Sherinian, in the band. He had come from Alice Cooper's band. He had come from a bunch of other different bands throughout the 80s and 90s. And is still very active today. If you've heard of the band Black Country Communion,
yep.
Derek Sherinian is in that band. So this is huge because all this EP album is the title track, which is 24 minutes long, called A Change of Seasons. And then side 2 or the other disc is live covers that they played at Ronnie Scott's in London. So it's an EP just because it's the one huge long original song and then a bunch of covers. So not technically a studio LP, but fans, including myself, love A Change of Seasons, one of their best songs completely just ever. So, yeah.
Cool.
And their first big epic. 24 minutes long. That was kind of their first huge epic. Now comes 1997 and the sort of, you read enough stories about bands, this is the record label that says, you guys aren't selling enough. You need to go into the studio and make a pop record.
Yeah.
and we have Falling into Infinity from 1997. Outside songwriters are coming in, the whole thing. I will say this is another one of those records that typically falls a little bit more towards the bottom of the catalog for a lot of people. That's not to say there's not some incredible stuff on here, but there is a lot of this sort of filler of what are they doing? I mean, what are they doing type of stuff. But songs like Trial of Tears have become huge, still huge off this record. Lines in the Sand is a favorite. Peruvian Skies is a favorite, all that type of stuff. So there are some great songs on here for sure. But a lot of it sort of teeters on that, like, they're trying to write a pop song because the label told them to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this is probably for me still like you're in like a 7 out of 10 here.
Yeah.
So with that,
so were fans at the time kind of bashing Dream Theater for doing this, or?
Yeah. They were 1997. It was the band's ready to break up. Everybody's upset. They hate the label. There's infighting. This was a pretty monumental failure in terms of everything. And they're at their make or break point. So this is always sort of alluded to when they talk about Rush 2112, how Caress of Steel came out, and it was like, guys, we're done.
And they didn't listen to the record company. They just did what they wanted.
Yep. So then Dream Theater goes, look, we cannot be told what to do. If you want this to work, you're going to have to let us do it all. We're going to self-produce. We're going to be in charge. You're going to let us do what we want to do, or this band isn't going to go, or we're done, basically. And so that's when this comes out.
Ooh.
So that's why this is their
magnum opus.
And just came out, and their first full concept album tells the whole story. Jordan Rudess is in the band now, who they've always kind of wanted. I've often said this is my favorite album of all time.
It's pretty good.
And this was the first one I truly heard, and it just blew my mind. And and so both in quality and just in career importance, this saved their career and just got them back on track. And it's been no looking back since. Yeah. Okay.
Open your eyes, Nicholas. I don't know what that means.
That's from that record. That's the that's the psychiatrist who's doing the counting.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And for me, concept albums, I don't know, like these stories, I have no interest in them, except maybe Tommy or something. But it's I still enjoy the album. Like I just don't follow. I'm not smart enough to follow the story.
No, I hear that. Well, to be fair, too, most concept albums are just like Tommy.
It was all a dream.
One of the best albums ever. What a dumb story, It's so that's 1999. Now we're entering what I would call the sweet spot, the prime. It is just banger after banger after banger now. The next one to come out after that is 2002's 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. This would be, I would say, another great place to start for anybody or for you coming off the 2 records that you have. Musically, very, very similar, maybe a little bit heavier at this point. Double album. One of the albums is a full, what they call the 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence part 2, or I'm sorry, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence title track, which is a 42-minute long composition. Starts with an overture, starts with all this stuff. This is also, to me, where their songwriting and creativity shows a little bit more. This is obviously a phrase on 6 degrees of separation, but the idea is that inner turbulence refers to life challenges, mental health challenges that are going on. So it's kind of a loose concept in 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence as a track. Walks through 6 different types of mental illnesses or challenges focused on bipolar disorder, postpartum depression, There's one on there's just kind of all over the place in terms of like dialing in. So conceptually, it has that sort of loose concept to it. But then you also have another side or another disc that is focused on 5 other tracks that are all focused on really serious topics.
One other thing is, so far, they have very good album covers.
They do. Yeah. And a lot of them were designed by Hugh Syme, who is the same one who did most of the Rush covers.
Oh, cool.
This is you could tell with this one, they were listening to a lot of like Radiohead at the time. This kind of gives that like very like early 2000s herky jerky. And yes, as Andrew points out below, this is where Mike Portnoy is battling some addiction issues and wanted to document it in a song, or through albums. And so this kicks off his 12-step suite, as it's called, with the Glass Prison, which focuses on steps 1, 2, 3 of the AA program, which will extend throughout the next 4 albums. So
cool.
That was 2002. The next studio album I don't have. It's the only studio album I do not have. Of course, I have the CD somewhere, probably living in my car. But that is 2003's Train of Thought. That record is interesting. That is probably what most people would say is their absolute heaviest record. That's like their Metallica record. It is just in your face. It's heavy, very not a ton of quiet moments. And definitely sort of influenced by the things that were going on at the time musically. Upon coming out, I think a lot of people were a little bit shocked by it because coming off of Metropolis Part 2 and 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, we're getting used to this big cinematic conceptual storytelling. And then boom, Train of Thought hits, and it is just like a gut punch in your face, straightforward metal. So that is Train of Thought. Again, people have looked back at it now thinking, oh, dang, that's a great record now. At the time, I think people were a little bit confused by it and just thinking, ooh, they're not prog anymore. They're just trying to be Metallica sort of thing.
It must be so hard to be a band and keep all the fans happy. It's just impossible, right? You either stick with the same kind of formula or you change a bit. And
absolutely. Yeah. And so that is 2003's Train of Thought. I'm going to show this very quickly just because it's a live record, but one of the best. And that is their live at Budokan. This was on the Train of Thought tour, 4 LPs, because they're known for playing an evening with. So they would always play 3-hour shows, no opener. Very, very long songs, and this is just an amazing live record. So I show that
cool
quick. Let's go to 2005. Guess so. 2005. Octavarium. This now to me closes the loop on sort of the prime time. So to me, the prime is 99 to 2005. Coming off of the very, very, very heavy Train of Thought. Now they're going back into the studio saying, okay, maybe we dial it back a little bit. Maybe it's not as in your face and as heavy, but we're going to go something that's a little bit more accessible, but not necessarily poppy, all that type of stuff. One of my favorite album covers of all time here. Great stuff. This, I've said it a bunch before. This itself contains my favorite song, composition, musical piece of all time, the title track, Octavarium.
Cool.
24 minutes of just pure, bliss for me. This, I think, is a great starting point. It has a little bit of everything to it. It's got some of the proggiest out there stuff. It also showcases a lot of their songwriting, melody, softer sides, and some of the heavier sides too. So this to me is always what I've loved. The concept on this is kind of brilliant. I won't go too much into it because it is a complete rabbit hole. Oh man, look at this guy go. I love that you love this record. I will say too, when I saw them a few weeks ago, they closed the show with Octavarium. It was my first time ever seeing it live. Wow. And I just was, out of it. But yeah, the whole theme here is the story ends where it began. So yeah, beautiful record, amazing. Of course, with that, in 2005, they're celebrating their 20th anniversary. So this was probably their pinnacle live record here, called Score, live at Radio City Music Hall. Another 4 LPs. They did a whole DVD with this, concert, movie, all that type of stuff. And then the entire second side of the show is with an orchestra. So if people like the whole orchestra thing, you get a little bit of all of it here. But this is called Score, their 20th anniversary live. Arguably, if you were to ask me, my favorite live album of all time, this one. So
Cool.
I'll breathe for a second. Questions?
Okay.
How are we doing?
Good. Yeah, there's no rush to do this at all. It's fine.
Okay, I just wanted to.
So Dream Theater is your favorite band?
Yeah, I'd say so.
So who's your second favorite band?
Well, that's a tough one. My second favorite band, this is where people laugh a little bit. My second favorite band ever is probably Def Leppard, because they were my first favorite band ever. They were,
and the live chat is done.
It's over. I know. It's like, we're
Thank you,
out of
everybody.
here. I'll do that next, Larry. We can do Def Leppard tomorrow.
That's okay.
Okay. They were my first love, Larry, and as you know,
that's fine.
Your first love, you know.
Yep.
Okay, that's 2005. To me, again, that closes the prime for them. And now again, some great stuff forthcoming, but that was the top of the pinnacle, and now we'll see where we go. So 2007 comes around, and this was important for me because this was the first record I had heard as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
So, or the first new record as a fan. Does that make sense? Like, everything I had listened to was records that came out before, and then I'd be like, oh my God, Dream Theater has a new record coming out in 2007.
I think Sam thinks you're joking.
Well, I think and Sam, because he's so funny, he says he's going to have to hand it to me because Sam likes to make fun of people with one arm, is what he said. So, and I know, yeah, look at Scott over there. Oh man. 2007, Systematic Chaos, the first record I bought as a new fan, in the sense of this, the first piece of new music that I was able to buy. Great record. I would give this probably an 8 or a 9, out of 10, whatever. But for me, this did, I think, note a part of their career that was starting to maybe feel a little bit tired. Some rehashed ideas. This is also a label change. They jumped over to like Roadrunner Records, which at the time was kind of interesting because I think that was the same label that had Nickelback on it. And so I think a lot of people got the sense that, oh, you're on Roadrunner now. Like, what kind of albums are you going to be putting out? That kind of stuff. Like everything else, this record has some absolute gold on it. One of my favorites, 2 of my favorite tracks ever are on here. In the Presence of Enemies, part 1 and part 2. They separate it like Shine On You Crazy Diamond, where they have part 1 that starts the album and then part 2 ends it. Yeah. But between In the Presence of Enemies, part 1 and part 2, which I absolutely adore, The Ministry of Lost Souls is another just amazing track off of this record. So yeah, still some amazing points here. But also maybe it's feeling a little bit rehashed. Maybe somebody's tired. Maybe they need some time to go and collect themselves and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So Mike is still with them at this time, right?
Mike is still in the band. Mike Portnoy is still in the band at this point. But that will change soon.
Yeah. 2009
comes out with another great album cover, Black Clouds and Silver Linings. Again, this would have been, I guess, the second record I would have seen. At this point, when this came out, I had seen them 2 to 3 times. I forget exactly how many times I had seen them when this record came out, but just 6 tracks on here. There are some classics. The Count of Tuscany has sort of become one of their signature tracks for sure. A Nightmare to Remember, great 16-minute long, big epic track. Great stuff all around. But, at this point, like I said before, the I don't know what's the phrase, the cracks are starting to show. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
at this point, Mike Portnoy, although it wasn't public at the time, was getting pretty tired. It was a write record tour for 25 years.
Yeah.
No breaks, no time away. It was just, we finished up a tour. Let's go in the studio and write the next record. So in 2010, they're on tour, actually opening up for Iron Maiden. They played a show at Radio City Music Hall, and then I actually saw them down the street here in Columbus at a small joint playing in July of 2010, and then by I think August or September, it was announced that he had quit the band.
Mm-hmm. And Mike wrote what, like lyrics wise, he wrote quite a few lyrics for them, or
yeah, I mean he was a lyrical contributor, not as much as Petrucci was, but he would contribute typically multiple songs an album. He was also co-producing everything. So when Metropolis Part 2 came out, it really, John Petrucci and Mike Portnoy sort of were the leaders in the sense that they produced everything up through this point as co-producers. And so, the whole story with him leaving, it's been well documented, but he went to the band and said, hey, look, I think we need like a hiatus. I think we need just like a break to rest, recharge, like I'm burning out sort of thing. And the band was like, well, we want to keep going on the Write Record tour. And then there was some falling out. Of course, things got a little bit ugly and all that type of stuff. And then, the rest is history, and he's back now. So, but this is the last studio album that he is on. I think I struggled with this. Of course, at the time I was 20 years old and I was like, this is wild. They decided that for their new drummer, they were going to do a documentary and do it like Dream Theater. So they filmed an entire documentary. It's still all over, I think, YouTube and everywhere else, of like, we're going to bring in 10 of the world's best drummers and we're going to document their auditions. And then we're going to release who our drummer is live to the audience. It was like it didn't sit well with me.
Kind of tacky. Yeah.
It was extremely tacky, and I think in kind of bad taste, just with everything going on. So, insert Mike Mangini, who is an incredible drummer and an amazing human being. I mean, I think a lot of people wanted Mike Mangini to be that replacement, and this is the first record they put out with Mike. Again, another great album cover. I love this album cover. Yeah. And this is a dramatic turn of events. Might have some implication on what was going on at the time. This is 2011, I believe, that this came out. So a lot of eyes and ears were on this. The first without Mike Portnoy. You gotta understand too. I mean, Mike Portnoy, for all intents and purposes, is the front man of the group. I mean, he founded the band. He was behind everything. He was the leader, the spokesperson, all that sort of thing. So
what's funny with Mike is, couple of years ago, I started to follow him on Instagram without even really knowing, I knew he was a drummer, but that's about it.
Oh, wow.
Following his stories about his dog that he recently sadly lost and all that. And I know he's a big Beatles fan. I'd see interviews with him and everything. So, yeah. Oh, very cool. Funny, though, I'd never really heard Dream Theater until.
But knew who Mike was. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so now we're entering the Mangini era of things. There's definitely, in my opinion, people might feel differently. To me, there's definitely something missing on these records. I think the sense of, sense of structure, sense of the co-production, the project lead. To me, I've always felt that what was missing was never the drumming. It was never about the drumming. It was about all the other intangibles. It was about the personality, the conceptual direction, the arrangements, all that type of stuff that Mike played such a huge role with. All that to say, I still love all these albums. Like, they're all still so good. So some of the huge hits on this, the big ones that I love, Breaking All Illusions is great. Outcry, Bridges in the Sky. Those are my three top favorites off of this record. Again, I'd give it now we just have John Petrucci in the solo production space.
So at the time, were the fans fairly happy with that album, or?
No. But I think no matter what they would have done, they wouldn't have been happy.
Yeah.
because so much of the fandom was Mike Portnoy. I mean, so much of it. So yeah, 2011, 2002. They're on like the 2-year thing. You know, it's like an album every 2 years.
They need to take a break.
That's what they've been saying. You know. 2013's self-titled Dream Theater. Again, this might be something that people probably put a little bit more towards the bottom, just because there's not a ton that stands out here, with the exception of the big epic Illumination Theory. With so many of these different, records, they always do some kind of 19, 20, 25-minute long epic that gets people going. Illumination Theory, I've always loved a lot. But besides that, I think, again, like par for the course, good, strong record. I mean, I could totally see that. I think a lot of people had some challenges with some of the production on a lot of these records, especially the drum sound. But again, that was something of like, who's in charge of the drum sound? It's one of those things. John Petrucci is known to have a very, very, very loud guitar. And so when he is also the producer, like he is, turning that up a little bit. So yeah, that is 2015's self-titled. Now, here's where I lose all the Dream Theater fans, Larry. You know how you love albums like Tales from Topographic Oceans, and you just get all those people, oh, Larry, it's self-indulgent and ruined drag. Yeah. So if the first record that I showed, When Dreaming Day United, is the black sheep, this might be the dark brown sheep, okay? Because I'm curious what like Kiefer and Andrew and the rest of them have to say. 2016 comes out now, and we get the astonishing, exactly, a 4 LP double CD monster concept album.
That's a studio album?
Yes.
How many CDs? 2?
I think it's 2 CDs, 4 LPs. Oh, look at Kiefer.
Top 2 worst album in heavy metal history.
Well, I would say it's not a heavy metal album. So here's the thing. This is like, Larry, if this is them writing like a Disney record. It is so theatrical and cheesy. I mean, it's almost like music from The Elder. There's a whole concept about, actually kind of funny enough, like robots, taking over music, and music doesn't exist anymore in this faraway dystopian land. And, there's like aspects of Cinderella going. I mean, it is the full story. I think they wrote a book with it. There was like a board game. I mean, they went full.
So were they turning into Styx at this time?
It is very, like, seriously, like it is that type of cheese. Like this is one of the cheesiest records of all time. And where I lose people like Kiefer, I'm sure, I love the hell out of this record.
Oh, cool.
I love it. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You want to listen to it, though. I mean, you're going to have to, it's like watching a 3-hour movie, it's like, you got to put some time away in your day, listen to the album. It's by far their least heavy album. There's so many cheesy like ballads on it. I would say it's their most orchestrated. So if people love string sections and horns and a lot of instruments, people playing different characters, all that type of stuff, then great. But since I heard it, I was like, this is everything I ever wanted with Dream Theater. I wanted the big conceptual nonsense, all this kind of stuff. So,
Glee.
It does.
I
don't disagree. That's so funny. Yeah, it does. I mean,
it's a prog metal version of Glee. Okay, got it.
Okay, Larry, like the main antagonist, his name is Lord Nefarious. Like it's all about the Raven skill.
Do they still perform any songs from that?
They don't.
They don't.
They haven't in a while.
Yeah.
The other thing was You know, it's very cheesy. It's very, I love the hooks on it. You know what I mean? Like, I think for a lot of people, it's like, well, if this wasn't a Dream Theater song, but it was like a play, I mean, you really do have to listen to it like it's a play or a musical. When they toured this live, they played the whole thing, and people were pissed.
Yeah.
Because people were showing up to see Dream Theater in 2016, and they're playing, you know, this. So yeah. I saw that tour, and it was kind of funny. For 2 hours, everybody was sat down. It's kind of like, this is interesting. Show's over. They come out for their encore, and they play "Pull Me Under" or something. Everybody stands up and starts clapping, you know, like crazy. So yeah. It's just one of those albums I, you know, call it a guilty pleasure or whatever.
So would that be probably the least favorite for most fans?
Yeah, I would say there's a tie. For most fans, we'll put this at the bottom with "When Dream and Day Unite." Yeah. Me? Not me. So of course, when you release what everybody thinks is a terrible album, you got to come back somehow, right?
Yeah.
That's it. I was there. That was me. Yeah, that's so funny. So coming off that terrible album, they got to do something, and they say, okay, let's get back to basics. Let's just put together a good progressive metal album. And I guess this was 2019. They release "Distance Over Time." This is my favorite. Well, honestly, my favorite of the Mangini era probably is "The Astonishing." But this, subjectively or objectively, I would say, is what a lot of people believe to be their favorite of the Mangini era. You don't like this album cover?
I like the album cover. It's different.
But yeah, I think a lot of people, again, will just appreciate that now. It's like, okay, they're done with the Disneyland. You know, now they're just getting back to basics. With some great stuff. So yeah, I mean, this is heavy, in your face, progressive metal 2019. Good stuff, great stuff. But to me at this point, here's the thing, and I think this is what we forget, not just about Dream Theater, but music in general, right? Is it, you know, take AC/DC, right? Love AC/DC. They're one of the most successful bands ever. And they've released the same album 20 times.
Yeah.
You know? I think Dream Theater, in a lot of ways, kind of do the same thing. They have a process and a formula that works extremely well, and they stick to that. And then when they go outside the formula, people hate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that they went outside the formula.
Yep.
And so when we get to this stage with this record in 2019, and then a view from, come on. This is "A View from the Top of the World" from 2021, I believe. Now it's okay. They're back to their formula. So this is probably the album I am least connected to. I didn't love it. I know a lot of people do. It's similar to "Distance Over Time," just in style. Again, it's kind of just more of a straightforward progressive metal situation. You know, they did win a Grammy for this with the track "The Alien," which is cool if people are into that sort of thing. I mean, you know how it is, Larry. Everybody hates the Grammys until their band wins one. Now we love the Grammys.
Yeah.
And so this was what would be their last album with Mike Mangini before we meet, because you have this too now.
Yep.
Until Parasomnia comes out earlier this year. See this little fancy version? I got the signed one because, you know, I'm a super fan. So
yeah. We'll pause it here. So how did the whole Mike Portnoy coming back, like how did that all work out? Like, and having to let go of the drummer and everything, like,
yeah,
is everything good there, or how did that all happen?
I think so. I mean, so, you know, the whole thing started happening again because the relationship was always there between John Petrucci and Mike Portnoy. They were, they were friends that met back in '85. Their family were friends. Their wives were in a band together. Their daughters, while Mike left the band and there's this big drama, like their daughters were living together, like as best friends in New York or something. Like, so after so many years, like they started spending like the holidays together and they started hanging out again. And like, they were like, we just need to be friends and all this kind of stuff. Mike Portnoy ended up playing on John Petrucci's solo record a couple of years ago. He then went on tour with John. Then during COVID, they got Liquid Tension Experiment back together. And so that means that, he was playing again with John and with Jordan Rudess. And so he was kind of patching up a lot of the relationships. The story is that the one relationship that he had to patch up big time was between him and James LaBrie, the singer. I don't want to say always, but that was the patchy relationship. So that was the last one that they had to do, which apparently happened. And they figured that out in the best way. I think that Mike Mangini, I would say, got kind of I don't want to say the raw end of the deal, because Mike Mangini was a professor. Like, he was a drum instructor professor at Berkeley. So like, this was his dream, and he was in this band for 12 years or whatever it was, doing this stuff. And so when Mike wanted to come back and the band was okay with it, then they, of course, were like, sorry, Mr. Mangini, but like the other Mike is coming back. I feel bad for Mike for two reasons. A, the fans never really accepted Mike Mangini. It was always a comparison game, no matter what. It's like, if he played things exactly how they were played, then he was a robot. If he didn't play them exactly how they were played, then he didn't know him and he wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And the thing that sticks out to me is that when they, quote unquote, fired him, they did it over the phone, which I think was just kind of a shitty business thing. But, ultimately, it's one of those things. I think the vast majority of people were, was just overjoyed that Portnoy was back and returned. And Mangini, just to his credit, was overly gracious about it. Was like, look, like, I was keeping the stool warm and I'm glad he's back. And, I just had a great time with it. So, yeah.
So when did you first hear the news? Like,
I was just scrolling through social media and saw it just as a Dream Theater post. And I thought it was April Fool's.
Yeah.
I didn't believe it, because I immediately went back to when I read the similar post in 2010 when he left. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I think it was just one of those things, right? Like, you always wish it would happen. You always think you're like, I don't think it's ever going to happen. It's never going to happen. And then when it does, so yeah.
Yep. And so when you bought this, tell us your thoughts on their latest album.
Yeah. I really like it.
And I do too. Like, in the CD exchange with Glenn, this was the first album of theirs I've ever heard. And I think I liked it right away, but you need to listen to it more than once.
Yeah.
And just with every listen. And then this so far, this is my favorite out of the two albums. But their latest is great too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, it's worth mentioning, like, this was their 16th studio album. They're all in their late 50s to late 60s. They're not reinventing the wheel. They are back to their formula that they do really, really well. So, to me, I love the album.
The singer's name? What's his name again?
James LaBrie.
How's his vocals live lately? Still good? Like,
to me, and this is kind of a point of contention for a lot of fans. To me, I really appreciate and respect what James does and the way he's taking care of himself. I think fans are brutal towards singers.
Yeah.
Because you cannot keep up a voice for 40 years the same way that you can keep up playing guitar or bass or keyboards for 40 years. He also has a lot of history. He got terrible food poisoning back in the mid to late 90s where he ruptured vocal cords through like vomiting. And so never fully even recovered from that. But the guys, I think he's 62 years old. you know, it's become I'm not going to say that it has become oh God, it's not Vince Neil bad. Let's put it that way. But there are a lot of fans that love to hate him. And I just have the utmost appreciation and respect because I think what he's doing is the hardest thing to do on that stage. I think he probably prepares and is more self-conscious about it than anybody else. And I think he holds his own. So, you know, one of the things people remember, and, you know, Kiefer's getting to this is like, you know, usually the start of the show is difficult, right? They're not warmed up. The start of the show is difficult. And since they opened all the shows with Metropolis, which is from 1992 and is like one of the most difficult vocal songs, like that might be you know, maybe open up with something a little bit easier. But he eventually, like, you know, again, it's a 3-hour set. Like towards the middle and end of it, I felt like he was sounding a lot better. So, you know, sometimes it's inconsistent. Some nights he sounds better than others, but Dream Theater is not Dream Theater without James LaBrie. So there's a lot of these fans that are like, he needs to retire. They need a new singer. And I'm like, it's not the band then. So, you know, he is the voice of the band. So,
cool.
He has actually. Did you ever watch any videos on? I think she's still doing the Charismatic Voice. Did you ever see that rolling? So she was like an opera coach, an opera vocal coach, and then just started doing like the YouTube thing to do basically song reactions, right? And then she started doing interviews, and so one of her and she started doing interviews with a lot of different singers, and one of them is with James LaBrie, and it's really good and kind of talking about how he prepares and all those different things. So cool. So Kiefer and I are on the same page, right? Thanks, Keith.
So what is you never did say yet, what album do you think I should get next?
If I were you, I would go for 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, Octavarium, and Awake.
Okay. Yeah.
I think, I don't know if it's available or what it looks like in Canada, but they did for a while for a pretty good price. They were selling like the compact disc box set of like the first like 8 or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, cool. I'll check that out.
But I don't know, you know, price wise what that is.
So you did that in less than 1 hour.
Wow.
That's impressive. Good job.
Thanks, Larry.
And at some point soon, we're gonna talk about the band Ween. Alex has listened to 2 of their albums so far, and so we're gonna be talking about the Mollusk in the next whenever. So we can do that whenever you're ready. Just let me know.
I got to put away a lot of records now.
Yeah, that's one thing I hate about doing a YouTube video, right? And I take out like 50 CDs. Oh, I got to put these all back now.
That's like most of my exercise is bending down to put these back in the shells, you know?
Yeah. So when you store them, do you have them in chronological order? Yeah.
Yep.
I don't. I just
don't. and then they got to be chronological for me. So now they're all out of order. So that's the other thing, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So anything else about Dream Theater before we go? For fans that haven't checked them out, what would you say?
No, I mean, I think I don't know if this sells it, but like, you know, I recognize that they're not for everybody. You know,
you have to like prog rock.
You do. I mean, it is, you know, this was a band that was founded on we want to be the best musicians in the world, right? Like, you know, and I saw your Facebook too when you posted and somebody made a comment. They're like, I can't listen to Dream Theater. And it's like, that's like, they're not for everybody. I mean, I think, but I would say if you like classic prog, you like Yes and Crimson and Genesis and those bands, and you like Iron Maiden and Metallica and heavier stuff, and you want to add in a touch of cinematic soundtrack type writing, you throw in a little bit of Hans Zimmer, I mean, to me, that's the band, and that's what I love. Fell in love with. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And some pretty good drumming on the albums too.
some great drumming on the album.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So, and tell us about your channel before we
Sure.
go, and the link will be below this video for Alex.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry. Beer and vinyl. It's what it sounds like. I'm a big vinyl collector. It's kind of all I collect. And talk a lot about music and drink beer sometimes while I'm doing it. And that's it. So yeah, big vinyl collector, like a variety of music, and yeah, stop by and say hello.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Larry.
This was fun. What other bands would you, we could do this again sometime, going through a discography of a band you really like, because I enjoy this, like, especially if I don't know the band that well.
Yeah. Ooh, that's tough.
Except for Def Leppard.
Well, damn it, that was my I'm trying to think of other I think it'd be fun to do. Well, you know what? Something that you and I could do together, which would be really fun, I think, would be Zappa.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'd be curious because I know you got most, if not all of them.
No, I have maybe like 40 or 50.
Oh, you still need about 150 more.
Yeah, I still need 100. Yeah, we could maybe our top 10 favorite Zappa albums or something.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Even do it with Glenn Kellaway from the Basement if you want. If we're that desperate.
Yeah, well, that's a different level of desperation.
Yeah. Beer and vinyl sounds fun.
It is.
Yeah, because I don't want to know, but I'm curious what your favorite Frank Zappa album would be.
Right.
It's hard for me. I don't know. One Size Fits All, Hot Rats, The Grand Wazoo. We're only in it for the money.
I was going to steal your idea of a recent video you did talking about like two albums that you view in like the same regard.
Yeah.
And it was going to be like, why I can't figure out what my favorite album is from these bands.
Yeah.
Like Zappa would be one of those where I'd be able to say like my favorite album is 5 different ones.
Yeah.
Or Pink Floyd is another one.
I think this ranking albums is kind of stupid.
But it's what the people want.
Zappa is great music and fun. One thing I'll ask you, could wait, but what did you think of the Flo and Eddie era? I know Glenn didn't care for that.
I like it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't hate it as much as some. I mean, some people blacklist it, right? They're like, I don't go near Flo and Eddie. It's like, I still like it. Do I like it as much as maybe what was before it and what came after it? No, but that's also because what came before it and after it are some of the best stuff ever, right? So I still really like it though.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll set that up too at some point. This in the next week or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thanks, Alex. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Larry.
I hope some of the viewers check out, seriously, a great band, Dream Theater. They're so great. They are Alex's favorite band.
And Mike Portnoy is going to watch this,
I've heard that.
It's
I was almost thinking, because I follow him on Instagram, not that he's going to read any messages, but hey, Mike, just in case you want to drop by.
he does show up. He knows about Scott in the
on
Frog Corner. He shows up in places, so it's possible.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
So thanks, everybody, and thanks, Alex. Be sure you subscribe to Alex Beer and Vinyl. Bye.
Bye.
End stream.